I thought dinner would prove me wrong. She called me paranoid, said her friend from work was just that, a friend. Fine, I told her, then let's all have dinner together. I expected some awkward small talk, maybe a few stiff laughs. What I didn't expect was his wife, and the way she looked at my fiancé when the check came. One sentence later, my fiancé's face went pale, and I realized this wasn't just office gossip anymore. This was something much bigger. Before that night, I thought I had a pretty good handle on our relationship. We'd been together just over 2 years, engaged for 6 months, living in my place while she saved up for our future. We had our quirks, sure. She worked long hours in marketing, loved to tell stories about her work crew, and sometimes came home buzzing about some inside joke I didn't get. But I figured that was normal. Everyone needs their own space. It was around month 4 of our engagement when he started coming up in conversation. At first, it was casual. Oh, Dave said something hilarious today, or Dave helped me fix my laptop. Then it became, Dave thinks we should try this restaurant, or Dave says I work too hard. I didn't think much of it, but his name had a way of sticking in my head. One night, she came home later than usual, smelling faintly of a cologne I didn't recognize. When I asked where she'd been, she laughed it off. Relax, I was with Dave and some people from work. You're overreacting. He's just a coworker. Her tone was half amused, half irritated, like I'd just accused her of something absurd. I let it slide, partly because I didn't want to be that guy, partly because maybe she was right. But little things started to pile up. She'd guard her phone more closely. She'd get texts after midnight and turn her screen away. Once, when I walked into the room, I caught the tail end of a message preview. If he asks, tell him. Her thumb shot to the screen so fast you'd think it was a reflex. I confronted her a few times, always getting the same answer. You're reading into nothing. It left me feeling like I was losing my grip on reality, torn between trusting her and trusting my instincts. The worst part? She'd spin it, so I ended up apologizing for even asking. Then, about 2 weeks before the dinner, she made an offhand comment. You know, we should all hang out sometime. You, me, Dave. I took her up on it immediately. She tried to backpedal. Well, I mean, he's busy. But I insisted. Great, I said, keeping my voice calm. Let's all have dinner together. Bring his wife, too. There was a pause, just long enough to notice, before she smiled and agreed. The day of the dinner, she was unusually quiet in the car. I told myself it was just nerves. Meeting work friends can be awkward. But in the pit of my stomach, I felt something heavier. A kind of tension that hums in the background, waiting for the right moment to break. Little did I know, that moment would come from her, not him. And when it did, it would flip everything I thought I knew about this coworker on its head. The restaurant she picked was one of those upscale but trying to be casual places. Soft lighting, jazz playing low enough to sound expensive. She'd worn a black dress I'd never seen before, hair perfectly done, lipstick a shade darker than usual. I noticed the details, because noticing had become a habit. We got there 10 minutes early. She kept glancing at the entrance, tapping her nails against the wine glass stem. Relax, I said, keeping my tone light. I'm fine. She replied too quickly, eyes snapping back to the door. When Dave and his wife finally arrived, I clocked the first odd thing immediately. The way my fiancé and Dave didn't greet each other like casual coworkers. It wasn't overt, but it was too familiar. A half smile held a beat too long. A nod that felt like an inside joke no one else got. His wife, Anna, seemed perfectly pleasant at first. Warm handshake, polite smile. She slid into the seat next to me, across from her husband. My fiancé sat next to Dave without hesitation. That seating choice alone felt like its own quiet statement. Small talk flowed easily for the first 20 minutes. Work stories, vacation plans, the usual. I watched body language more than I listened to words. Every so often, Dave would lean in toward my fiancé, and she'd tilt her head just slightly, like she was letting him in on something no one else could hear. Anna noticed too. Her smile would flicker, but she didn't say a word. The first micro-tension hit when the waiter came with wine. Dave poured for my fiancée without asking, knowing her preference exactly. She thanked him like it was routine. Anna's eyes tracked the movement, then flicked toward me, almost testing my reaction. By the time entrees arrived, I was in full observer mode, catching every small shift, every glance. I was about to chalk the whole thing up to overthinking when the conversation turned to late nights at the office. Dave laughed. Yeah, Your girl here keeps me company when we're burning the midnight oil. My fiancée swatted at his arm, laughing too loud, too quick. Anna didn't laugh at all. She set her fork down, folded her hands on the table, and in the calmest voice I'd heard all night, asked, "So, are we talking about actual work late nights, or the ones where you grab dessert after?" The table went silent. Jazz from the speakers suddenly felt like it was in another room. My fiancée's smile froze mid-curve, her eyes darting between Anna and me. Dave shifted in his seat, but Anna's gaze didn't waver. I leaned back, heart thudding slow and heavy, letting the question hang there. Because whatever was about to be said next, I had the distinct feeling it wasn't going to be some harmless misunderstanding. And when Anna finally opened her mouth again, the words that came out made my fiancée's face go the color of the tablecloth, and I knew I'd just stepped into something far deeper than office gossip. Anna didn't raise her voice. She didn't have to. The calm in her tone cut sharper than anything else in the room. "I just want to make sure we're all talking about the same thing," she said. I still locked on my fiancée. "You know, those nights you text me that you'll be home late, but your phone shows you're somewhere else." Dave shifted again, this time reaching for his glass. My fiancée forced a laugh, the kind that comes out too thin. "Wow, Anna, you make it sound like some kind of conspiracy." Anna's smile didn't reach her eyes. "Funny you say that, because if it isn't one, maybe you can explain the charge for the hotel 2 blocks from the office, the same night you told me you were at a client dinner." The air at the table changed. Not just tense, heavy. I could feel my pulse in my jaw. My fiancée's hand went to her napkin, folding and refolding it until the edges lined up perfectly. "That was," she started, then stopped. Her voice had that careful edge, the one she used when she was searching for the least damaging version of the truth. I didn't say a word. I just watched, letting the silence do the work. Anna leaned back in her chair. "I mean, maybe it's a coincidence. Maybe you really were having dessert after work. It's just, I've never known dessert to cost $300. The first microtension spike hit me right there, because that was new information. Something I hadn't even considered. A number, a receipt, a place. Details that fit too neatly into the little gaps I'd been ignoring for months." Dave cleared his throat. "Babe, maybe this isn't the place." Anna didn't look at him. "I think it's exactly the place. Especially if your fiancé here wants to tell him." She nodded toward me. "Why she needed to borrow your credit card that night." The second spike. Borrowed his card? She'd told me her own had fraud issues and was locked for a few days. I'd even offered to help cover her expenses. She'd smiled, kissed me, and said she'd manage. My fiancée's jaw tightened. "This is ridiculous. You're just trying to cause drama." Anna finally turned to me. "Or I'm trying to save you some time." The way she said it, not loud, not cruel, just matter of fact, made the back of my neck prickle. I sat there, replaying months of little moments. The guarded phone, the unexplained cologne, the late nights that ran long. And now, someone else's wife handing me a breadcrumb trail in public. I glanced at my fiancée, searching for something. A crack, an admission, anything that might make this all less damning. All I saw was the same defensive mask she wore in every argument, the one that said I was the problem for even asking. And just as I was about to speak, Anna reached into her purse and pulled out something that made the entire restaurant fade into the background. Because if what she was holding was what I thought it was, this dinner wasn't ending without answers. Anna placed a folded piece of paper on the table like it was nothing more than a receipt. But the way my fiancée's eyes locked on it, and then darted to me, told me exactly what it was before I even touched it. "Go ahead," Anna said softly, "since you like dessert." I unfolded it slowly, not for dramatic effect, but because my hands didn't trust themselves not to shake. It was a printed statement from Dave's credit card company. A single highlighted line, Hotel Belmont, $312.47, 11:43 p.m. The date? 3 weeks ago. The same night she told me she was at a team wrap-up dinner. The same night, she came home smelling like someone else's cologne. My fiancée leaned in, her voice low, almost pleading. "This is insane. Anna, you're making things sound." Anna cut her off without raising her tone. "No, I'm just reading numbers. You're the one who makes them sound like something else." I stared at the paper until the numbers blurred, my mind flipping through every small dismissal I'd swallowed for months. The "you're overreacting." The "he's just a coworker." The careful way she'd spin every doubt back onto me. The first microtension spike hit when I noticed something in the fine print. Room for 2 guests. I didn't need a forensic team to know that wasn't standard for a late-night meeting. Dave reached for the statement like he might snatch it away, but Anna slid it toward me instead. "Keep it," she said. "In case you ever start to think you're the crazy one." My fiancé's voice sharpened. "This isn't what it looks like." I finally looked at her, keeping my own tone level. "Then tell me what it looks like." She opened her mouth, closed it, and then glanced at Dave like he might save her. That was the second spike. Because in that split second, it was clear, whatever this was, they were in it together. Anna picked up her wine. "You know, I used to think I was paranoid too. Then I stopped ignoring what I saw. Turns out, some things don't need context. They're exactly what they look like." I didn't respond. Not to Anna. Not to my fiancé. I just sat there, my mind splitting in two. One half clinging to the version of her I thought I knew, the other half already starting to plan what came next. The noise of the restaurant faded, replaced by the rush of my own pulse in my ears. I could feel the shift, the point where suspicion ends and certainty takes its place. And as I folded that paper and slid it into my pocket, Anna leaned closer and said something that didn't just confirm my worst fears. It hinted at something even bigger, something that made me realize this dinner wasn't the end of the story. It was the opening move. Anna didn't break eye contact as she spoke. "That night at the Belmont," she said, her voice even. "It wasn't the only one. Not by a long shot." The fork in my hand suddenly felt heavier. I set it down without looking away from her. "What are you saying?" She sipped her wine, unhurried. "I'm saying," she began, "that if you check the Belmont's booking records, you'll find at least 4 other nights in the last 2 months, all charged to his card." My fiancé let out a strained laugh. "This is ridiculous. You sound obsessed." Anna turned her head slowly toward her. "Obsessed is tracking someone's location at midnight because you know they're not where they said they'd be. Obsessed is keeping every receipt because the lies start to blur together. I'm not obsessed. I'm done." The first microtension spike hit right then, not just from Anna's words, but from the way my fiancé's posture changed. She sat back, arms crossed, chin up, the stance she used when she decided that no amount of explaining would help her. The stance of someone bracing for a fight they already believe they've lost. I felt my jaw tighten. "So you've known about this for how long?" I asked Anna. She glanced at Dave. "Long enough to stop pretending our marriage wasn't already over." Dave muttered something under his breath, too low to catch. Anna ignored him, still focused on me. "I figured you deserved to know before you marry her. Call it a professional courtesy." The second spike came from my fiancé's reaction, not outrage, not denial, but a flicker of something colder. Fear? No. Calculation. The look of someone already running through damage control in their head. I thought about the past few months, the guarded phone, the deflections, the team dinners that ended at strange hours. One night in particular came back hard. She'd texted me at 11:15 p.m. saying she was just leaving the office, but when she came home at midnight, her hair was damp and she smelled like hotel soap. At the time, I'd swallowed the explanation whole. Now, the aftertaste was bitter. Anna leaned in slightly. "There's one more thing you should know," she said. "But it's not my story to tell." I frowned. "Then whose is it?" She looked directly at my fiancé. "Yours." The table went still. My fiancé's nails tapped against her wine glass, a rapid, nervous rhythm. She opened her mouth, closed it, then reached for her bag. And when her hand came out holding something I hadn't seen in months, something that tied this all back to a night I'd almost forgotten, I realized Anna was right. This wasn't her story to tell, but it was one I needed to hear, no matter how much it hurt. What she pulled from her bag was a small silver bracelet. It was thin, delicate, and unmistakably mine. I'd bought it for her last spring, engraved with the date we got engaged. "I found this in my purse," she said, her voice unnervingly calm. "I must have left it at the office one night." The lie was so lazy it almost offended me, because I remembered exactly when I'd last seen it. On her wrist, the night she said she was going to grab coffee with a friend after work. That was also the night she came home with a faint sunburn on her shoulders, despite claiming she'd been indoors. The first microtension spike came not from her words, but from Anna's reaction. A short, humorless laugh. "Office, huh? Is that what we're calling the Belmont now?" My fiancé ignored her. She looked straight at me, like if she just held my gaze long enough, I'd cave the way I always had. But this time, My mind wasn't racing with doubt. It was cataloging. Every date, every alibi, every micro-expression when she got caught off guard. I didn't say much for the rest of the dinner. I didn't trust myself to. Because the second spike came when I realized something dangerous. My silence made her nervous. She kept glancing at me, checking for cracks, trying to gauge how much damage control she'd need later. And in that quiet, a plan began to form. Not revenge in the movie sense. No public screaming, no smashed glasses. Something cleaner. Something she wouldn't see coming until it was already done. On the drive home, she filled the air with explanations I didn't ask for. How Anna was bitter and jealous. How Dave was just a flirt, but harmless. How I was too good to let this ruin us. I let her talk, just nodding at the right times, storing every word. Because now, I needed her comfortable. Predictable. She'd mistake my quiet for acceptance, and that's when I could move. That night, lying awake while she scrolled on her phone beside me, I started sketching it out in my head. Step 1. Confirm Anna's claims. Dates, charges, locations. Step 2. Secure my finances, passwords, shared accounts. Step 3. Document everything quietly. Step 4. Wait for the right audience. The thought of confrontation in private felt too small. If she'd been willing to humiliate me in ways I hadn't even noticed, then the truth deserved light. Bright, public, undeniable. I knew it wouldn't be easy. Part of me still wanted to believe there was some missing piece that would make it all less ugly. But the bigger part, the part that had folded that credit card statement into my pocket, knew better. And as I finally drifted off to sleep, one last thought settled in. When the moment came, it wouldn't just be about proving her wrong. It would be about making sure she never got the chance to call me paranoid again. 2 days later, I put step 1 into motion. While she was at work, I called the Belmont and asked to confirm some business stay dates for accounting purposes. They didn't even hesitate, rattled off 5 separate bookings under Dave's name, each with 2 guests. 3 of them lined up perfectly with nights she'd worked late. I hung up, feeling a grim satisfaction. It wasn't hearsay anymore. It was a record. A cold, impersonal log of time she could never talk her way out of. That evening, I made step 2 my priority, locking down joint accounts, changing passwords, moving my direct deposits into a separate bank. No confrontation yet. Just quiet, precise movements she wouldn't notice right away. The first micro-tension spike came when she breezed in from work, dropped her bag, and kissed me on the cheek like nothing had happened at that dinner. She asked what I wanted for dinner, scrolled through her phone, laughed at some meme. If I didn't know better, I'd think she'd already forgotten the whole thing. I played along, light conversation, easy smiles. If she noticed my laptop open to a spreadsheet, she didn't comment. That was the point. She wasn't supposed to feel the ground shifting under her. Step 3 came next, documentation. I compiled the credit card statement Anna had given me, my call log with the hotel, screenshots of text previews I'd caught in passing. Everything went into a password-protected folder, with a backup on a flash drive I kept in my car. The second spike came when she mentioned, casually, that she'd be working late the next evening. I nodded, hiding the small rush of adrenaline. Perfect. More rope. The following night, she left at 6 p.m. By 6:45, I was parked a block from the Belmont. At 7:03, I watched her walk through the hotel's revolving door, not alone. Dave was right beside her. I didn't follow them in. I didn't need to. Seeing it with my own eyes was both sickening and clarifying. I drove home, heart oddly steady. I had everything I needed now. Evidence. A plan. And the timing. Her birthday was coming up in a week. Friends, family, colleagues, the perfect audience. For the first time in months, I felt in control. Like I could breathe again. That weekend, I made sure to be extra attentive, flowers, takeout from her favorite place, even agreeing to watch one of those reality shows she loved. She smiled, relaxed, clearly believing she'd weathered the storm. But on the night of her birthday, just as I was setting everything in motion, a knock at the door shattered the neat little timeline I'd built, and when I opened it, the person standing there made me realize this wasn't going to end the way I thought. Standing in my doorway was Anna. No jacket, hair slightly windblown, clutching a manila envelope like it was fragile. She didn't wait for an invitation, just stepped inside, shut the door behind her, and turned to face me. "We need to talk," she said. Her voice was low, urgent. I gestured toward the couch, still trying to process why she was here now. She didn't sit. Instead, she held out the envelope. You're not the only one making a move. Inside were a stack of printed screenshots, texts, emails, photos, some from Dave's phone, some from hers. Every single one made my stomach turn. The first microtension spike hit when I saw a string of messages from my fiancé to Dave, mocking me. Not just lying, mocking. Little digs about my schedule, my habits, even the gifts I'd given her. She'd sent him a picture of the bracelet I bought, captioned, "He thinks this means something." I felt my grip on the papers tighten. Anna watched my reaction carefully. "That's just the surface," she said. "There are dates in there that match weekends you two spent with your friends." She told him everything. And I mean everything. I looked at her. "Why are you giving me this?" She hesitated, then glanced toward the window, as if making sure we were alone. "Because Dave's been lying to me too. About her, about other women, about money. I'm filing for divorce, and I want them both exposed." The second spike came when she added, almost as an afterthought, "And if you're planning something for her birthday, you might want to adjust your timing, because Dave knows you've been suspicious. He's talking about getting ahead of the story." That phrase stuck in my head like a warning siren. If they were already spinning their version, my clean, controlled reveal could turn into a he said she said circus. The power I thought I had, the element of surprise, was slipping. Anna leaned against the arm of the couch. "I'm not saying don't do it. I'm saying, if you wait a week, they'll have every lie rehearsed. You need to move now." I ran a hand over my face, feeling the plan I'd built start to fray at the edges. Everything in me wanted that perfect stage, the audience, the poetic justice. But I couldn't ignore the risk, not with proof in my hands that could vanish if they got spooked. Anna picked up the envelope from the coffee table and tapped it against her palm. "You wanted undeniable, public truth? Here it is. The only question is whether you're willing to use it before they rewrite the ending." I looked at her, weighing every angle. Act now, and the impact would be raw, messy, but real. Wait, and risk losing everything I'd gathered. And then Anna said one more thing. A single sentence that made my blood run cold and left me no doubt about what I had to do next. "She's not at work right now, she's with him." For a moment, I just stood there, Anna's words echoing in my head. Not at work. With him. It was as if the whole week, the dinner, the evidence, the planning, had been leading to this single, ugly point. I grabbed my jacket, the envelope still in my hand, and headed for the door. Anna followed without asking. The air outside was sharp, the kind that wakes you up even if you don't want to be awake. We didn't speak much on the drive. She gave me the address, not the Belmont this time, but a small boutique hotel on the other side of town. As we pulled into the lot, I spotted her car immediately. The license plate, the dent on the rear bumper from last winter, no mistaking it. The first microtension spike hit when I saw the light in one of the corner rooms flick on. A shadow passed across it, two figures, close together. Too close. My hands were tight on the steering wheel. I could feel my pulse in my fingertips. Anna sat rigid in the passenger seat, her gaze locked on the same window. "You don't have to go in," she said finally. "Sometimes seeing enough is enough." But I'd already made up my mind. If this was going to end, it wasn't going to end with me in a parking lot, staring up at a silhouette. We walked in together, Anna a step behind me. The lobby was quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like it's holding a secret. At the front desk, I flashed the bracelet in my hand and said I was returning something to my fiancée. The clerk hesitated, then gave me the room number. The second spike came when I reached the door. I could hear laughter from inside, hers, bright and familiar, mixed with a man's lower tone. It wasn't muffled enough to pretend it was innocent. My hand hovered over the handle. I wasn't sure what would hit me harder, walking in and seeing it, or walking away and never knowing every detail. I knocked once. The laughter stopped instantly. Footsteps. A pause. Then the door opened, just enough to show her face, flushed, eyes wide. "Wah," she started, but I pushed the door the rest of the way open. Dave was standing near the bed, shirt untucked, belt hanging loose. The room smelled faintly of wine and her perfume. On the nightstand, two glasses, one still half full. For a second, none of us moved. It was like the air had been sucked out of the room. Then I stepped forward, dropped the envelope onto the bedspread, and looked her straight in the eye. "This," I said quietly, "is the last time you get to tell me I'm imagining things." And as I turned to leave, Anna still in the doorway, she said something that made them both flinch. A final piece of truth that blew the whole thing wider than I'd imagined. You might want to tell him about the money before I do. The mention of the money hit harder than I expected. Dave's eyes flicked to her, sharp and questioning. She froze, lips parting like she might deny it, but no words came out. I turned back, slow. What money? Anna stepped into the room now, crossing her arms. Tell him about the account you've been draining. Or should I? My fiancé's voice cracked. It's not what you think. It's exactly what I think, Anna cut in. She's been helping Dave funnel money out of his business into a separate account. And guess whose name is conveniently attached? Yours. The first microtension spike slammed into me. Not just betrayal, but the realization that this wasn't just emotional damage. This was legal. Dangerous. I looked at my fiancée, my voice steady but cold. Is that true? Her eyes darted between me and Dave. It was just temporary. We were going to put it back. Dave barked a laugh, dry and humorless. Don't drag me into this. Oh, you're already in it. Anna shot back. I've got every transfer documented. And if he's smart, he'll take this evidence before you two have a chance to lose it. I stepped closer to the bed, picked up the envelope, and slid the bracelet inside. I don't need any more explanations, I said. I've got what I need. The second spike came when my fiancé reached for my arm. Please, can we just talk? Not here, not like this. I pulled back. You had months to talk. Instead, you lied, laughed about me, and used my name to cover your tracks. I glanced at Anna. Send me everything you've got. Anna nodded once. No problem. And for the record, I'm done protecting either of you. I headed for the door, but paused in the frame. They both stood there, silent now, Dave with his jaw tight, her with her eyes shining, but not from regret. It was the look of someone realizing too late that the script they'd been rehearsing didn't fit the scene anymore. I turned to Anna. You still want this public? Oh, very much, she said. Her voice was steady, her smile small but real. I'll handle the legal side. You handle whatever you have in mind. A calm settled over me then, heavier than anger, but sharper than sadness. I wasn't going to yell, throw things, or make a scene. That wasn't my win. My win would be making sure every single person who'd heard her version got the truth instead. I walked out without looking back. In the hall, Anna fell into step beside me. You're going to be fine, she said quietly. Maybe, I replied. But she's not. Because by the time her birthday came around, the guest list she'd been bragging about for weeks was still showing up. Only now, they'd be getting a very different kind of celebration. Her birthday fell on a Saturday. The house was spotless, balloons tied to the chairs, a cake in the kitchen. Everything looked like a celebration, and in a way it was. Just not the kind she'd imagined. Guests started arriving around 6 p.m. Friends from work, a few of mine, her family, even Dave, without Anna, obviously. I greeted each one, smiling, offering drinks, letting them get comfortable. She was radiant, floating from guest to guest, soaking in the attention. She thought she'd survived everything. At 6:30, I tapped my glass and asked everyone to gather in the living room. Before we cut the cake, I said, I want to share something special with all of you. A little highlight reel of the past few months. The TV flickered to life. At first, just photos, vacations, dinners, harmless moments. Then, slowly, the tone shifted. Screenshots of messages, hotel receipts, room bookings, and finally, a short video Anna had sent me the night before. Footage from a hotel security camera showing my fiancé and Dave walking into the Belmont together, laughing. The first microtension spike rippled through the room when the date stamp appeared in the corner of the screen, one that matched a night she'd told everyone she was working late. She tried to speak. This isn't. But I kept going. The next slide was a series of bank transfers, from Dave's business account to one with both their names on it. The amounts were neatly highlighted. Gasps from her friends. Two of her co-workers exchanged looks that said they'd suspected something, but not this. The second spike came when I turned to her and said, if you want to explain any of this, now's your chance. Silence. Her face had gone pale, her eyes darting toward the door as if she could just leave and erase the whole scene. I didn't drag it out. Happy birthday, I said, voice calm. Then I picked up the envelope, the same one from the hotel room, and set it on the coffee table in front of her. People started leaving in awkward silence. Some avoided looking at her. Others gave me a brief nod on their way out. Dave slipped out quietly, his shoulders hunched. By the time the last guest was gone, the cake was untouched, the decorations felt absurd, and she was sitting alone on the couch, staring at the envelope like it might bite her. I didn't stay to hear whatever excuse she was building. I walked out, locked the door behind me, and drove away. Anna kept her word. She filed for divorce, handed over her documentation, and from what I heard, the legal fallout hit Dave's business hard. As for my fiancée, she moved out within a week. We haven't spoken since. The worst part wasn't losing her. It was realizing how easily I'd let myself believe the version of reality she fed me. But the best part? Knowing that the last time she tried to laugh at me behind my back, everyone she cared about was standing right there to see the truth. If you've made it this far, you probably understand why I needed to tell this story from start to finish. It wasn't just about catching someone in a lie. It was about reclaiming my sense of reality. When you spend months being told you're overreacting, you start to wonder if maybe you are the problem. That's the dangerous part. It doesn't happen all at once. It seeps in slowly, until you forget what your instincts sound like. For me, the turning point wasn't the proof. It was the moment I stopped explaining myself to someone who had no interest in hearing the truth. From there, every step got clearer. Every decision felt lighter. If you've ever been in a situation like this, whether with a partner, a friend, or even family, know that you don't owe anyone blind trust at the expense of your own peace. Thanks for sticking through this with me. If you want to hear more real stories like this one, you know what to do. Hit subscribe, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and I'll see you in the next one.